Hi, didn't see you there. I've been painting this Canoptek Doomstalker to look like a Colossus from StarCraft 2, so Archon Studio can get an idea on how to create their own miniature. And no legs only, Arek. So come and join me at Ollie's crafting table, so I'll show you how I did it. We are starting with a fully assembled, but not glued together, grey Canoptek Doomstalker. The first step is priming it black, with Abaddon Black Primer, while you enjoy this beautiful Slavic view. Next we'll dry brush the entire model with lead belcher. Ideally you should move the brush in small circular motions, but I'm just brushing however I can. And here we have the finished model. Just kidding. The next color is bright gold. As you can see, it's quite thin and goes on a little streaky, so you'll probably need a couple of coats. Luckily, this is a Necron Doomstalker, so it's fine if it looks a bit rough around the edges. We'll also apply the gold to this panel and around this section, making sure not to paint the recessed area inside. The same gold paint is applied to all of the legs. However, be careful to keep the metallic core in the middle and leg joints free of any gold paint. This is how the model should look like after the initial stage. Next, apply the bright gold to the head. Our next color is Retributor Armor. We'll use it on the lower section beneath the power core, as well as the panels surrounding it. We'll also paint the small panels around the energy orbs with this color. Back to bright gold. This is also a good example of why subassemblies are useful. With the side panels removed, it's much easier to reach these areas with a brush. Apply a bright gold to the guns, then switch back to the Retributor armor for the gun coils, and the armor plates covering the leg joints. Now it's time to apply the wash. Apply the wash to all of the recesses and dents in the gold armor. You can go with multiple passes. Wash these markings as well. Along with the legs. On the legs, apply a heavier wash between the joints to really darken those areas. Using a larger brush, wash the armor plates covering the leg joints. Finally, apply the same wash to the gun coils and the entire casing around the core. Time to apply another. Apply the wash. Apply the wash. Apply the wash. This time, apply the wash to all of the metallic areas, including the guns, the metallic core, the gun mounts, and the main body. Next, heavily thin down some white scar until it's runny. Using a fine detail brush, carefully apply it into the recesses to brighten them. Apply it between the energy conduits, to the vents in the center and on both sides, and into the recesses on the guns and the gun coils. See how nicely it flows into the panel lines. You'll need several passes to build up the brightness. On the face, apply enough coats to completely cover the bright gold underneath the eyes. Apply the same white to the knee joints and the vents on the shields around the power core. Then paint both energy orbs. The smaller one on top and the larger one underneath. Once the white is fully opaque, it's time for our first contrast paint, Ultramarines Blue. Apply it over every area you painted white to create a deep blue glow. Next, apply a frost heart over the same areas. This brightens the center of the glow while leaving the edges darker, creating this desired lighting effect. Repeat the process on the vents, around the power core, the energy conduits, and the gun barrels. I also decided the legs needed a bit more color, so I painted the second cable on each leg with white scar. Then applied Ultramarines blue, followed by Frostheart in the same way. Now, to add some battle damage, I mixed bright gold with shining silver to create a lighter gold. Load an old synthetic brush, wipe most of the paint off on a paper towel, then gently stipple the gold armor to create small chips and scratches. They're subtle, but they add a lot to the finished model. The legs still looked a little too uniform, so I introduced another color, greedy gold. At first, I applied it to just this section of the panel. Then I wondered how it would look like on the entire panel, and I liked it. So I painted the panel below as well, and then continued across the rest of the leg. Once the leg was finished, I carried the same color up onto this side panel and the central section of top of the leg. To complete the paint scheme, apply the wash. Apply Agrax Earthshade over all of the areas painted with greedy gold. Again, you can go quite heavy with it to achieve desired contrast. Now that the model is finished, let's move on to the base. Start by adding a drop of Uhu glue to attach the Citadel skulls. I arranged 3 skulls in a triangle so I could stack a 4th one on top to create a small pile. Next, glue a few rocks to the base. These are just ordinary rocks I picked up outside my house, but feel free to use your fancy basing or fish tank rocks. Now apply a generous coat of Hercules glue, a standard white PVA glue. This will lock everything in place. Use an old brush to spread it evenly across the base. I was a bit heavy-handed with the glue and ended up removing some of the excess, so aim for an even coat rather than a thick layer. The sand came from a children's playground about 6 years ago, and I'm still working through the same container. Now jam the base straight into the sand and shake off the excess. If you miss any hard to reach spots, sprinkle a little sand on by hand. I also brushed away some sand from these expensive skulls to make them stand out a bit more. The next day, once the glue has fully dried, it's time to paint the base. Start with a base coat of Abaddon Black, although I used a cheap black acrylic for this step. Cover the entire base, including the ruined walls. Instead of dragging the brush, use a stippling motion to avoid the dislodging the sand and rocks. Carefully paint around the skulls, as they'll receive a lighter base coat. I forgot to mention this color in the paint list, but while the black dries, base coat the skulls with red bone, although any light color would suffice. Next, mix Abaddon Black with Corax White, or use any dark grey, and load an old brush for dry brushing. Dry brush the entire base, including the ruins, while avoiding the skulls. However, if you manage to target the skulls, you will get some nice cracked skull effect in the end. If there are still any damp spots on the base, just like in my case, simply work around them until they are fully dry. Now for the metallic details. One more paint I forgot to mention in the overview is rough iron. I used it on the pipes, but any dark brass color will work just as well. Apply it to the smaller pipes, the exposed rebar, and this vent in the wall. Paint the large pipe with lead belcher. I'm still using a stippling motion to keep the paint out of the recesses. Carefully work around the other pipes, the model's legs, and don't forget the inside of the pipe. For the scarab, start with heavily thinned white scar, letting it flow into the recesses. Then paint the body and head with Runelord brass. And finish by applying Tessera Glow into the recesses. To finish the base, apply the wash. Wash all of the metallics with tastiest of the washes, Nuln Oil. And shade the skulls, apply the wash with Agrax Earthshade. And with that, the base and the entire model is complete. From all of us here at Ollie's crafting table, I would like to wish you a happy painting and tracing bless.